Hi, I'm Parneet Jaggi, and in this second lecture on this short story, A Cup of Tea by Katherine Mansfield, we are going to be looking into what is the background of this story and what actually the story is about and when was it written. Just as we talked about Katherine Mansfield in detail in the previous lecture, let me introduce her to you once again. She was a writer, a New Zealand writer, best known for her modernist short stories and her association with a rich literary circle of her time, like Virginia Woolf, D.H. Lawrence, and other members of the Bloomsbury group. Now, when we look at the story, A Cup of Tea, this 1922 story, written by Katherine Mansfield, actually holds class consciousness and materialism as its main point, as the pivotal point of the story. It is a stunningly, surprisingly well characterized and magnificently portrayed story against its plain title, and the story remarkably presents a crystal clear image of class distinction and one's mad fondness towards materialism. The way this character tries to possess things, show her vanity, and go on in her dreamy world is what is projected in the story remarkably. It is just the same as The Doll's House and The Garden Party, as a matter of fact, that these stories also reflect upon the same issue of class distinction. Now, here in this story, we also see that she tries to reflect upon the noble act of philanthropy and how people fancy this act to be the cause of their ascension for the moral values among their social circle. Because in this story, we see the central character who is actually a rich lady, but she tries to commit these acts of philanthropy. She wants to do some welfare to the mankind, to the needy. But how? This kind of an act is actually a ladder, a staircase to their ascension, to be on the greater side, to be on a greater platform, to show off in their social circle that, look, this is how I am helping my own society. So, this is a kind of a snobbery that Katherine Mansfield is trying to highlight in this story. Now, when we talk of the background of the story, it was written on 11th of January in early 1922 and was published in the famous magazine Storyteller, and later it appeared in Mansfield's short story collection, The Dove's Nest. And this story associates with the deplorable conditions of New Zealand at the time when it used to be a British colony. The trends of class distinction were at its peak, a noticeable issue which needed to be brought forward influenced Mansfield to pen it down. Because she felt the need that this vanity and this snobbishness has to be portrayed somewhere through the characters of the story, that how these rich people, how this elite class tries to show off its vanity and false pride and hypocrisy through helping, through the philanthropic acts of the society. So she has kind of indirectly implied this philanthropist act as hypocrisy in the story. Now, it's important to look into the characters of the story. The main character, the protagonist, is this lady, Rosemary Fell, who is actually a polished, a refined, a rich, a socially poised married woman with a devoted and a loving husband. She is well dressed and well off with all the luxuries of life at her disposal, whatever she desires for. And she's mainly interested in reading books, always indulged and greatly inspired by the characters and their adventurous lives of these books, which she comes across in the stories. So she is mostly living in the world of books and dreams. Apart from this, possession and insecurity can also be sensed from her character. The second important character is her husband, Philip Fell. Now, this husband of Rosemary is in fact one of the richest persons of his society, but he is devoted to his wife, he is loving, he is caring. He calls Miss Smith pretty just to make her send Miss Smith away, as she refuses to do so when he asks her in the first place, even though making his wife feel insecure about herself and her beauty. So he plays an important role in changing the attitude of his wife, who carries a poor beggar girl to her home and starts looking after her to prove her vanity. Now, this third character, Miss Smith, is all the more important because she plays a pivotal role in projecting the vanity of these rich people and in also changing the attitude of Rosemary. Miss Smith is a lean and thin poor girl of almost the same age as that of Rosemary. Now, she's so poor that she can't even afford a cup of tea, and so she comes to ask Rosemary to pay her the price of a cup of tea while Rosemary is in the market and she is about to board her car. Now, this Miss Smith is a kind of a vulnerable character, frightened, scared, weak, hungry, confused. And she's shocked when Rosemary offers her to have a cup of tea at her home and she takes her along. Now, the only other character that we have in view in this story is the shopkeeper. Now, this is the shop where Rosemary visits. And the owner of this beautiful antique ornaments shop is actually a kind of a flatterer. He's always looking forward to have Rosemary at his shop and saving a lovely piece of art for her, just like he had been saving the eye catching the blue velvet box. Now, we see him in the very beginning of the story trying to flatter Rosemary so that she can buy the heaviest, the most antique, the most beautiful, and the expensive gifts from his shop, and he can have his own profit from her side. So these were the main characters, all the four characters present in the story, which carry the story to its climax and its ending. And we'll look into the synopsis and the plot of the story in the coming video. So please join me for the next video. Thank you for now.